Good morning, friends. Welcome back to the Happy Homestead. It is Thursday, August 10th, and we're going to get right into today's project for the Every Bit Counts Challenge. And today's project involves squash, summer squash. If you are growing, or if you know anyone growing summer squash, whether it be a variety of zucchini or yellow squash, they will have more than they need. When a plant is truly healthy and producing, it produces in abundance. And we're no exception to that. I'm so grateful. I've already shredded and freeze dried a lot of, I know yellow squash, I think both zucchini and yellow squash last month. We've been cooking, we've been eating and doing a variety of things with it. But today I'm going to use what we have, and I'm going to make zucchini brownies and bread, but I'm not making zucchini bread. I'm gonna make yellow squash bread. I'm gonna change it up. So we're gonna use both of these today. I scoured the internet for some recipes to try. I have some, and there's probably nothing wrong with them, but I really wanted to just kind of look to see what else there was. And so I am going to link the recipes down below in the show notes so that you can find them too. As far as the zucchini bread, I found an article where whoever wrote the article tested like 4 or 5 most top zucchini bread recipes that were highly rated from a different variety of food sites. And so the winner has 209 4.9 star reviews. So that's what we're going to do today. Except, like I said, I'm not doing zucchini bread. I'm going to do yellow squash bread. And then for the brownies, this has 215 votes, 4.95 stars. So it's time to get baking. I already have my oven preheating at 350. Now, the bread recipe makes 1 loaf. I'm actually doubling that today. And I've already greased my loaf pans with coconut oil. The brownies are cooking in a 9x13 pan. And my goal is to freeze one of the bread loaves and to freeze half of the zucchini brownies. So I am starting with the zucchini brownies, and the trick to this recipe is, which I think is a great thing, is I'm actually not going to be draining the zucchini shreds. I've already got them shredded, they're in the bowl, but I'm not going to drain them by any means. I'm actually going to let whatever water and moisture accumulate in the bowl while it's sitting there go right into the recipe. And it's very clear to say, don't drain your zucchini. The dough is going to feel, or the batter rather, is going to feel kind of dry. And then you're going to add the zucchini in, let it sit a bit, and some of that moisture will come out into the batter, and that's what makes it such a delicious brownie. So I'm actually now going to get out the dry ingredients, measure them out. Now, if you've been following along on the channel, you know I am very anti-seed oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, those types of things. We just don't have that in this house. So whenever I see recipes, and this one clearly says vegetable oil, this one says vegetable oil, not doing it. In those instances, depending upon the item for this, like a sweet kind of bread baking, I have coconut oil and I have butter. I'm probably gonna go with coconut oil today. So think about that for your health, your family, and what you would switch some things out with. Also, I don't have enough all-purpose flour, so I ground some soft white wheat this morning in my mock mill. I probably would have used all-purpose or maybe half and half. I just don't have enough until I get my next to Azure order. So that's the flour I'm using. Both of these recipes, I also selected them because they're doing things by weight. I prefer when baking to measure by weight and not volume. I think it just gives a much more accurate reading, accurate result. Okay, so I have to kind of keep reminding myself what I'm doing, but I'm doing the brownies. I'm not doubling the brownies, I'm doubling the bread. So the brownie recipe asks for or calls for 1.5 cups sugar. I just put 1 cup of sugar in. I reduce it just a little bit as personal preference. Tablespoon vanilla extract and 1/2 cup of oil. I have a mixture of coconut oil and butter in here. I'm just gonna do 1/2 cup. Mix that up. So I need 256 grams of flour. One and a half teaspoon baking soda. 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. I'm going to start to mix this up. I'm not adding the salt yet because I think what I'd like to do is add the salt on top of the zucchini so it actually starts to release some of those juices a little bit faster within the batter. Okay, and this calls for 3 cups zucchini. If this goes well, I might make another batch of these as well. Okay, there's 3 cups. 1 teaspoon Redmond real salt. And it says to use your hands to really just kind of get everything thoroughly incorporated. And then we're going to let it sit for a few minutes to let some of those juices release from the zucchini. Now, with the zucchini, this is just how I do it, right? I do it in the food processor. I find it to be faster, easier, cleaner. Some people prefer to do it on like a cheese grater, and that will give you a much smaller, fine zucchini. You could actually put it in the food processor and do this and then take the disc out and put your blade back in, and that will give you a finer cut as well, like a almost like minced, right? Like really fine. If you're trying to hide the zucchini in the brownies. I am not trying to hide it. Okay, I can see that that batter is already so much wetter. Wow. Okay, into the oven it goes. It's only going to take about maybe 20 minutes, 350 degrees. Brownies are in the oven. I went ahead and made a second batch because I had so much leftover zucchini. Can never have too many brownies, especially in the freezer. So I have 2 batches of brownies done. The first one, as you saw me do, was in a 9x13 pan. The second one I did in an 8x8. And the reason is because when I was spreading out that first batch that you saw, the 9x13, I thought, gosh, this is really thin. Like this is not a lot of batter compared to the size of the pan. So for the second batch, I made it the exact same way. I still had cut the sugar to 1 cup, just like you saw me do in the first one. And I put it in the 8x8 just to see the difference. So we'll see that when everything comes out and it's all done. I do imagine that the 8x8 will have a little bit longer cooking time because it is going to be thicker and it needs to make sure it's getting really cooked down to that bottom center. So now we're going to go on to our squash bread. I am doubling the recipe. The recipe as it's written is for 1 standard loaf. I'm doubling it. So I have got my flour, baking powder, baking soda. It calls for cinnamon. I am actually going to be using a pumpkin spice. So cinnamon, clove, nutmeg. There might be a little allspice in it. I'm just going to do that instead of cinnamon. It calls for 1 cup of brown sugar and 1/2 cup of regular sugar. Again, this is for 1 loaf. So that's 3 cups total. I am probably going to bring that down to 2 cups total. And my goal is to mix this all up as 1 big batch and then separate it between the 2 loaves. 3/4 cup vegetable oil. I am splitting that between coconut oil and grass-fed butter. Vanilla extract, 2 eggs, and 2.5 cups grated squash. So anywhere between 12 and 16 ounces. I have 3 yellow squash here. I'm just gonna shred all of it and get it all put together. But this one looks fairly easy too. This recipe, it says to mix your dry ingredients and then you're going to throw your squash in it, and then we'll mix the wet ingredients and combine the two. So for this one, I need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons baking soda, 2 teaspoons of my pumpkin spice, and 2 teaspoons of Redmond real salt. We're going to toss our squash in here to coat it. So as I'm stirring this up, I just added another kind of heaping teaspoon of my pumpkin pie spice. I really wanted that flavor to come through. All right, so remember I am doing 2 cups of sugar. It calls for brown and regular. So I'm gonna just do 1 cup of each. Vanilla extract, 2 teaspoons. 1.5 cups of oil, oil/butter. And I'm gonna mix this up before I add my eggs in. All right, we're gonna combine the two. You're supposed to add the dry to the wet, but my wet bowl, not the bigger bowl. And I'm gonna use my hands again. Okay, these are gonna go into the oven, 350 degrees for about an hour. The brownies are out, they are cool. The zucchini bread is out. It is not yet cool, it's still hot, but everything looks so pretty. So yeah, these look great. I basically cooked these for about an hour and 5 minutes. This one was a good 20, and this was probably more like 30 because this is the 8x8 pan. And you can see it's just a little bit thicker versus the 9x13. And yes, you can't bake brownies and not try it. I mean, I already had tried it, but I needed to do another one. It's good. It's not overly sweet, right? Because I did cut the sugar a bit. I'm okay with it. I know my kids are gonna be fine with it because it's a brownie. It doesn't have to be overly sweet for them to love it. But what I also notice about it, and I'll see if you can kind of see that, it is very cakey. It's not like this dense kind of, I hate this word, but moist, like this dense, moist brownie. It is cakey, but it's good. It's really good. I think I will definitely make these again. And I don't even see the zucchini shreds in it. Just kind of looking at it, I can't actually see it. So I'm gonna let these totally cool, cut them, and I am going to freeze them probably individually, like just on a sheet pan, and then wrap everything in foil, get it in a Ziploc bag, a freezer bag, and put it in the freezer long term. Same thing with the squash bread. I'm gonna let this thoroughly cool for a few hours, if not until later tonight. Take them out of the pan. I'm going to wrap it with foil, put it in a Ziploc bag, and leave it in its whole form. And the other one we will have over the next week or so, a few days to a week. It won't last that long. But I'll let you know tomorrow in tomorrow's video how the bread turned out, because I can't cut into it right now. So all in all, I'm gonna call this a success. I'll post the recipes down below, like I said. Stay tuned for more on the Every Bit Counts challenge. Every day I'm putting up a new video. Stay healthy, stay well. Bye-bye.